Welcome to Arlington Public News. I'm Carla Dorado.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Thanks for joining us. In this edition of APN, Arlington Police are out in front in dealing with mental health calls and bringing new life to the Mill Brook corridor.
And can a town transportation planner make traffic apps work in our favor? That and more up next. Stay with us. It's budget season in Arlington, and although voters will not be asked to fork over more money this year, discussion is underway about future needs in town.
One of them is funding a new high school that could cost taxpayers upwards of $100 million. In our snapshot, we tell you about a chance to have your say on that, and the other possible tax increase coming from overall town costs outpacing revenues. Brenda Mahoney joins us with more. Brenda?
Thanks, Paul. Well, town leaders have been anticipating a budget shortfall for some time now, even bringing it up at the annual town meeting last year. Costs for town services are simply rising beyond what tax revenue can cover. Things like town employee pension and healthcare costs, and the ongoing increase in school enrollment. The Budget and Revenue Task Force met February 26 to look at ways to address the financial shortfall. All of them involve a property tax increase beyond the 2.5% maximum allowed without voter approval. Combined with an expected high school debt exclusion, Arlington taxpayers could be in for a total 15% hike on their property taxes. Leaders from various boards in town are not taking the options lightly. The town manager's office has proposed several different scenarios for the task force to consider. The possibilities ranging for an override to last between 3 to 5 years before another one would be needed, and weigh instituting an override for beginning financial year 2020 as opposed to 2021. Estimates show significant savings by asking for an override a year earlier. And it would come at the same time as voters would be asked to fund a new high school, likely adding around 5% to homeowners' tax burden alone. Task force members stressed they want to be clear about what an override would fund, particularly when it comes to schools. They also debated what taxpayers want and how much they're willing to pay for it.
So we're talking about a basket of revenue and a basket of services, and you can construct different baskets, then you talk to the voters about which ones you want. How do we go about deciding what the promises we want to make to voters with this 2019 tax override?
One of the things that we've been talking about on the school committee for a long time, and I feel like this really makes that happen, is that we really owe it to everybody to go home and do the work that says, this is how much money we need. Instead of playing this, here's 6% more, how's that this year? And every year we have the discussion about how it's still not enough money. And we kind of do this because that's always the way we've done it, right?
At the school committee, we're starting to get parents coming in with pitchforks, not about maintaining status quo. That's not good enough for them. They want to know what we are going to do to improve services, improve the quality, reduce class size, to provide more services for their children. So that is a drastic change from a large demographic group who bought expensive houses with the expectation that the value of the services and schools that are associated with them will improve.
And I was suggesting that 10% is an upper limit on this conceptual override. If we have the override and the school in the same, and the debt exclusion for the school in the same year, that's going to be roughly a 15% tax increase. That's a big number. That's probably bigger than any other city or town has had in eastern Massachusetts in the last 10 years. So I think we should think long and hard about how much we're willing to push the voters on this issue.
The Budget Task Force expects to make a decision on an override proposal by later this year. An actual ballot vote would then have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen before going to voters in either 2019 or 2020. Well, the Arlington High School building project continues to move forward through the Massachusetts School Buildings Association's timeline. Currently in the feasibility phase, the building committee and planners are looking at all the possible options, a complete rebuild, a renovation, and even moving the school to a new site. Two community forums have attracted over 100 residents each. The first giving attendees the opportunity to discuss the vision for a new school building. And at the second forum, the focus was on creating an educational vision for students within the new space. On Monday, March 5th, interested residents are invited to walk the halls of Arlington High School and see for themselves how the multiple additions and renovations over the years have created a labyrinth of sorts throughout the corridors and stairways for students and teachers to navigate. The tours will meet in the foyer of the high school's main entrance at 7 o'clock at night. A Q&A session with AHS Principal Matthew Janger and Superintendent Kathleen Bodie will follow the tour. You're then invited to take part in an interactive discussion about trends in school design and possible design ideas for the new high school. The next forum after that will come in later in April. And you can learn more about the project by visiting ahsbuilding.org or check out acmi.tv/news for earlier reports we've done on this story. Well, that's it for tonight's Snapshot. Back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Brenda. The Waze, that's W-A-Z-E, traffic app started showing up on cell phones just about a decade ago, and it's made MapQuest printouts and stopping at gas stations for directions remnants of the past. With nearly 50 million users, Waze technology helps drivers find the fastest routes possible and navigate around heavy traffic and road hazards. These apps have dramatically changed the way we drive. And as with any new technology, it comes with benefits and unforeseen challenges. Waze can create traffic on residential roads by rerouting cars off the congested main drag. A consequence, Arlington residents share it with communities around the country who are seeing an increase in commuters speeding through their neighborhoods. In the second installment of our series on transportation initiatives, APN looks at how Arlington is working to address concerns about traffic apps, but also looking to take advantage of Waze-generated data in its transportation planning. APN reporter Hannah Schuster brings us this story.
The Town of Arlington's budget for fiscal year 2019 creates a new position, the Senior Transportation Planner. This employee's job will be to address local traffic concerns and to work on larger transportation projects like Mass Ave Phase 2. What prompted the new position?
So we've heard concerns about neighborhood cut-through traffic, speeding, pedestrian safety, the need for improved bike accommodations. We've also heard concerns that some of these things are being caused by the Waze navigation app or other navigation apps that are directing traffic through residential neighborhoods that weren't really used to seeing much traffic at all. So we've been seeing those matters. We're trying to address them as best we can.
Chapdelaine believes it's time for a dedicated staffer to focus on these issues. In the past, the Assistant Town Manager, Arlington Traffic Police, and the volunteer-based Transportation Advisory Committee have all played roles in addressing Waze-related concerns. Kelwyn Manor in East Arlington is hit hard by commuters trying to avoid traffic. Drivers turn left off of the slow-moving Lake Street to snake through its side streets. Residents, in part, blame Waze.
Mostly in East Arlington, off of Lake Street. Waze was directing a lot of people off Lake Street into both neighborhoods on each side of Lake Street. And we've had some success with the Board of Selectmen adopting signed regulation limiting the hours of the day where people can take left or right turns into those neighborhoods. And that's not without complication, because people who live in those neighborhoods want to be able to take those turns when they're coming home from work. And we don't have the resources to have a sticker program so that people can take those turns if they live in the neighborhood. So there have been some complications, but once we've put up signs both on Lake Street and then some other strategically placed signs, it gets input into Waze by users, and it seems to drop down the amount of cut-through traffic. So on a one-by-one basis, it has been effective. What I'd like to do is think that we can develop a more comprehensive approach to dealing with it so that we're not firefighting or dealing with it as it arises. And that's what I hope that this Senior Transportation Planner can help us do.
The Senior Transportation Planner will explore adding additional signs like those along Lake Street, as well as a range of other solutions to Waze-related concerns.
I think it may include more timed signage. It may include more police details or police enforcement details to try to figure out if curbing speeding or just putting a police presence might make people behave more appropriately as they're driving through neighborhoods. It might mean, in some instances, changing the way the roadway looks. Sometimes if it's easy to take a right because it's sort of a soft turn, it might seem more friendly for someone to take that turn, go through a neighborhood, get to where they're going. But if you make it a more squared off intersection and the turn is harder, you might be able to make it easier for a pedestrian to cross while also making it less attractive for a car to turn right. So there could be a whole range of options that might be available to improve the situation.
But Waze isn't all bad news for transportation officials. The app collects a vast amount of data about road conditions, traffic speeds, accidents, and through a new program, local communities like Arlington are hoping to benefit from this knowledge by applying to become a partner in the Waze Connected Citizen program. The CCP is a two-way data sharing program. Partner cities give Waze advance warning on planned construction or road closures. In return, Waze shares its data with the local leaders so they can isolate areas with the worst traffic congestion and plan infrastructure projects, or get real-time updates on accidents and hazards that users report to the app. Town officials wanted to communicate with Waze about the Lake Street issue, but found it was much easier for CCP partners to connect with the app developer.
Early on, I would hope that we could help people who are driving through town by putting in information. So if we close Mass Ave for Town Day, the Patriots Day Parade, if we're doing water or sewer work or road paving, be able to put that information in so that people can avoid areas where they don't really want to be driving through town. I think that's an immediate benefit we could get, so we could do that proactively. Down the road, as they start to give us more data, and as I would assume more and more people use Waze, I think it could help us to make transportation planning decisions. So if we see that a certain number of cars are going through a certain road at a certain speed, then maybe we can change things to either make cars, more cars go there, less cars go there, go at a different rate of speed. So when you have data behind your decision making, you can often make much smarter decisions.
The City of Boston is a CCP partner. They have used Waze data in several ways, like to study traffic congestion in the Seaport District and to locate areas of Boston with the most double parking. For Arlington Public News, I'm Hannah Schuster.
The town is waiting to hear whether Waze will accept Arlington's application to become a CCP partner, but just as with autonomous vehicle testing, Arlington is putting itself out in front as one of the smaller towns looking to get involved in cutting-edge transportation technology.
The Arlington Police Department was recently acknowledged by the White House for its leadership in the Police-Assisted Addiction and Recovery Initiative known as PARI. Now, the department is receiving national attention once again, this time for its compassionate approach to helping those facing a mental health crisis. APN reporter Tyler Robichaux has the story.
Arlington Police Department is recognized as a model facility once again. This time, it's because of their response to incidents regarding mental health. In February, the Department of Justice designated the Arlington Police Department a law enforcement mental health learning site, along with 9 other departments across the country. Law enforcement organizations looking to improve their response to mental health-related calls are encouraged to visit and observe Arlington Police.
When someone would reach out for help, or if the DOJ wanted to push someone and say, hey, listen, you might want to talk to these folks. These folks have a pretty good plan in place. They're doing some great work. You might want to talk to them.
Arlington has been developing their response plan since 2010. They've now joined the One Mind campaign, a nationwide initiative to provide mental health first aid training to officers in an effort to de-escalate police interactions with those suffering from mental health crises.
Times have changed, and it's part of what we do now as a police department is dealing with, those people in our community who are dealing with behavioral issues and can be in crisis. So this was an easy decision for us.
According to a National Public Radio report, approximately 10% of police calls are now related to an issue regarding mental health. Some departments have incorporated in-house mental health clinicians to respond to the increase. Rebecca Sopoulis is Arlington's clinician. Part of Sopoulis' job is to educate and assist officers dealing with these situations. Arlington uses a co-response model where the clinician and the officers work together to ensure every incident is a learning experience.
When we're riding in a car together, that's honestly the most hands-on way to learn, right? Because we're understanding what needs to happen from a police perspective, from a mental health perspective, and just using that knowledge together, every time it just gets better and more kind of seamless.
In compliance with the One Mind Pledge, all of Arlington's police officers are trained in mental health first aid, and more than 20% experience in-depth crisis intervention training.
But when you're sitting beside them, you're aligning yourself with them. It's a very different message than when you are facing someone and talking to someone face to face. It's that simple move of, I'm with you, as opposed to, I'm kind of at you.
The goal is to give officers the tools they need to de-escalate the situation and to find alternatives to arrest. Tsopoulos then offers personal follow-up.
At the beginning of every day, I look through kind of all the reports that have happened when I'm not here, and then I will usually go out with an officer to respond and to provide outreach.
Having a mental health clinician in the community gives those suffering with mental health disorders someone to call, freeing up 911 lines for emergencies. In our next story, we'll be looking at policy changes regarding mental health and how that impacts the Arlington community. For APN, I'm Tyler Robichaux.
Well, Arlington is definitely seeing growing pains, but it's good to see that the high school is finally in the planning stages for renovation or replacement. That's an older building, and we all are looking forward to that, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great improvement for the children because it really is quite something to navigate, and the heat in the summer is unbearable. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of relief in many ways.
Good to see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagining a linear park along Mill Brook. How could it really become a reality?
And the Ponders are headed into the postseason. That and more when we come back.
Okay.
Mill Brook has played a crucial part in Arlington's history. It fueled the economic growth of Arlington Mills and served as a transportation route from the reservoir out to the Mystic River. Recent history has left the Mill Brook neglected and forgotten. Now there's a push to bring new life to the brook and its surroundings as a linear park. APN reporter Sebastian Gonzalez-Johnson has that story.
The Mill Brook corridor has been an important ecological and economic feature in Arlington since the area was first settled back in the mid-16th century.
The milling industry along Mill Brook, there was, and most of them were operated by the Cutter family, 26 mills along that Mill Brook with their mill ponds. So it was the first industrialization of this area.
The Mystic River Watershed Association is collaborating with the Town of Arlington, the Conservation Commission, the Park and Recreation Commission, and the Mill Brook Study Group to revitalize the area by creating a linear park. The project plan focuses on Wellington Park and the area around the Mill Brook corridor from Brattle Street to Grove Street. Heading this project for the MRWA is Mystic's Greenways Director, Amber Christofferson.
What's here in dormant stages right now is a lot of invasive plant species, which are choking out native species and don't provide a lot of ecological value. You also have this old chain link fence. You can see trees growing into it. In addition to not being attractive, it's also choking out some of the native trees that are growing here. And then when you look a little bit closer into the brook, there are some degraded, cemented side banks of the river, which are not your typical ecologically valuable planted natural edges. So those are some of the issues that we're trying to address with this project is both one, open up access so people can see the brook and interact with it, and also improve the quality of the environment along the banks and adjacent to the banks. Yeah, so the Mystic River Watershed Association has been monitoring the water quality of Mill Brook for years, as we have many of the other water bodies across the watershed. And unfortunately, this brook gets a D+ grade, which means that there are high levels of bacteria. So one kind of impetus for this project was to also look at how some of these environmental restoration projects could be improving the water quality and looking at some of the stormwater outfalls and what could be done to address some of those issues.
This is not the first time that the concept for a linear park has been proposed. Previous studies and reports have contributed to the development of the current project, including a 1977 concept study and a 2010 report updating the conditions, challenges, and opportunities for the area.
In the 1970s, there was a community-driven idea for a Mill Brook linear corridor or park. So the idea was that you could walk and experience the entire length of Mill Brook from the Arlington Reservoir to the Mystic Lakes. So again, this idea has been around for about 40 years. It kind of had a resurgence back in the 2000s when community members got together and in 2010 published the Mill Brook linear park study. So that was again another attempt to look at this corridor more holistically and make it a recreational and environmental asset for the town.
The MRWA is already asking for feedback from abutting businesses and residential property owners. A combination of public and private ownership makes things more complicated. The parcels along the Mill Brook are owned by both the town of Arlington and the neighboring Mill Brook Condominium Association.
We have been in discussions with folks that represent the condos here to kind of hear their ideas, as this is really their backyard, and hearing their ideas and concerns about public access, environmental improvements. What I would say about the business communities, mostly here on Dudley Street, is that, this really hasn't been an asset for them, but I think it can be an interesting economic development by improving access to the brook. You bring more people on foot. They want to visit businesses. I know some of the businesses here often use this area as a cut through to get to Mass Ave. So we could make that route a little bit more appealing for them potentially. And again, this is all the start of a long dialogue. This project will be ongoing for several years.
For Arlington Public News, I'm Sebastian Gonzalez Johnson.
You can learn more about the project and share your ideas by attending one of the 3 public outreach workshops on the project. The first workshop takes place at the Arlington Senior Center at 27 Maple Street on Thursday, March 8th from 6 to 7:30. Visit mysticriver.org/Millbrook for more information.
March brings the first hints of spring, and there's plenty going on to get you out of the house and enjoying all the events around town. Want to waste less food? Come to the panel discussion on Tuesday, March 6th from 7 to 8:45 p.m. in the community room of the Robbins Library. Moderator Larry Slotnick of the Arlington Recycling Committee and panelists Kelsey Juntwaite from Food Link, Jeremy Marin, local composting expert, and Charlotte Milan, town recycling coordinator, will share facts and tips on how to reduce food waste, saving households and the town of Arlington money as well. For more information, visit foodlinkma.org.
Tumble out of bed, pour yourself a cup of ambition, and head over to the Arlington Friends of the Drama to take in the musical 9 to 5 throughout the month of March. 3 coworkers in a 1980s workplace take on office politics, bosses who ask for coffee, and the patriarchal management with big hair and bigger attitudes. Performances run Fridays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. from March 9th through March 24th, and Sundays at 4 from March 11th through the 25th. Visit afdtheater.org for more information or to purchase your tickets.
Arlington Poet Laureate Kathy Desjardins is holding drop-in hours at the Beehive Table on the 3rd floor of Robbins Library, Tuesday, March 13th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Aspiring poets and poetry novices are invited to bring poems, bring friends, and meet others who are interested in words. For more information on poetry happenings around town, visit Miss Desjardins on Facebook at Poetry Fandom.
On Saturday, March 10th, Arlington Reads Together holds its 2018 kickoff event at the Robbins Library. This year's book, Wonder, by R.J. Palacio, confronts issues of bullying and community acceptance. The month-long series of events begins with Bringing Wonder to Life with Sam Drazen. Sam's lifelong challenges mirror those faced by Augie, the main character in Wonder. Sam believes awareness is essential to support children and adults in becoming more aware and accepting of all the differences. The discussion takes place at the Robbins Library Community Room from 2 to 3:30 p.m. For a complete list of Arlington Reads Together March events, check out the Robbins Library website at robbinslibrary.org.
From the court to the ice to the track, Arlington Spy Pondos are moving into tournament play. Our Studio B Ace sports team has all the updates.
Hello Arlington sports lovers and welcome to another edition of the Sports Update. I'm Zach Garrigus, here to catch you up on what our Spy Ponders have been up to. Boys basketball locked in their first win of the tournament against Gloucester on Tuesday night with a score of 64-54. They will move on to the quarterfinals to play against Brighton on Friday, March 2nd. They're currently scheduled to play at home at 7 p.m., but be sure to check MIAA.net as the week progresses as changes may be made to the schedule. This will be the last home game for the boys, so be sure to get there early, or you can watch the coverage right here on ACMi. Moving on to the rink, boys hockey played Pope Francis at Chelmsford Forum on Monday night to qualify for the Super 8 Championship. Unfortunately, they couldn't come away with a win, but they'll be competing in sectionals against either Belmont or Melrose on Saturday, March 3rd. The game will be played at Chelmsford Forum, but more details will be provided on the MIA site as more of the brackets are played. Finally, we'd like to congratulate indoor track star Ryan Newsting on winning 2 state titles at last Saturday's state championship. Ryan ran the 1 mile in 4 minutes and 12.75 seconds, as well as the 2 mile in 9 minutes and 8.34 seconds, setting a new record as the fastest high school 2-mile indoor time in the country. Ryan will compete in New England's championship on Saturday at the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletics Center. From everyone here at ACMi, I would like to wish Ryan good luck as he continues his record-setting career and continues to make Arlington proud. That's all we have for sports this week, but be sure to keep an eye out for our Spy Ponders that continue to progress through their tournaments.
Thanks for joining us. You can check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public.
And if you'd like to be a part of Arlington Public News, you're invited to join us for a hands-on news open house. Meet the APN team and find out where your interests can take you at APN and ACMi.
We hope you'll join us at 85 Park Ave Studio on Wednesday, March 7th. We'll be hosting one session at 11 and another at 7 p.m. For more information, email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by the studio at 85 Park Ave. I'm Carla Dorado.
And I'm Paul Werlin. We hope to see you there. Good night. Thanks for joining us.